Hello, and thank you for attending today's office hours. I have a few team members joining me today, so I'd like to extend a huge welcome to Crystal, Vanessa, and Shauna for joining me. Today's topic is all about leadership. I had the opportunity to interview Hannah Jakova recently for the Generation podcast. And in addition to being an expert in demand generation, Hannah is a coach who specializes in leadership development for women. So that's why we have an all-female panel today. It's not an accident. And remember, if you have a question, just add it to the chat and we will answer it live and answer as many questions as possible. So in the meantime, while those questions come in, I'll get us started. So first, I'd just like to get an overall reaction to the interview with Hannah. So Crystal, how about we start with you? What was one important takeaway or favorite moment from the show?
Yeah, my overall, takeaway from it. I enjoyed the episode. The last couple of years. I'm sorry. Can you hear that? Oh my gosh, it's my neighbor. Hold on, let me.
It's all good. You gotta love the new virtual world.
It's so loud. I don't know. Somebody else. I'm gonna mute for a minute. Maybe somebody else go until he completes whatever it is he's doing.
Sounds good. Shauna, do you want to go ahead and answer that?
Yeah, I really liked her stance and approach on just empowerment. When I left listening to that episode, there really truly was a feeling of empowerment, knowing that there are avenues of someone helping you build those skills. I don't think that we're always aware of those opportunities. And so the way that she touched on some of those things, I walked away wanting more information.
That's great. Crystal, are we safe to go back to you? No, not yet. Okay, Vanessa.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the interview. I feel like both of you guys did a really good job, especially with the questions to the answers. I think what stood out to me the most was like how she talked about leadership and how it can look different. She also offered like various ways to grow in leadership and unique and creative ways. Like I never thought about like seeking out a coach potentially, to help with leadership growth. And I thought that was really unique. So I feel like she had a lot of interesting perspectives on that. And just like as a woman of color, she spoke to a lot of things that I experienced. And so that was really cool to like hear. Because it's obvious that other people have similar experiences, but when you have like that one-on-one, it just makes the information just translate differently. So, yeah.
Well, I think, sometimes people don't talk about what those experiences are like. Sometimes we just try to blend in and become part of the norm instead of recognizing each other's differences and how those differences, definitely play a part of our work environment.
Yeah.
So Crystal, are we good now?
So yeah, as I was saying, I really did enjoy the episode. One of the things that really resonated with me is that I did have a lot of similar experience to Hannah in terms of having strong women mentors throughout my career, and then realizing how lucky I have been to have that, because I know it's not common, and how much that really shaped my leadership style and my career. And to your same point as you, Vanessa, one of the things I really liked was that she did talk about different types of leadership and also different types of coaching that you can get within leadership. Like she talked about one-on-one coaching, she talked about executive coaching, but she also talked about group coaching, depending on the objectives your teams might have. I feel like that's really good perspective, because sometimes we think about, leaders are only people at the top, but leaders are not. Leaders are throughout your organization.
That's great. All right, I see a question coming in, and this actually really plays into what you were just talking about, Crystal, with having the importance of having female mentors and people that you can look up to and talk to. So what are some different ways that you recommend to other women of how that they can build up that support system and build a valuable network of female connections?
So for my
To start.
point of
Okay,
view-
Crystal.
Yeah, sorry. From my point of view, I mean, one of the things I think that has been sort of been challenged a lot recently is this idea of that women have to compete with one another to make it to the top. So I feel like there's been a lot more women supporting women, and that we should really try and lift one another up. So I think with that in mind, like, people should not hesitate to reach out to women that they may consider like someone that could be a mentor. I think a lot of times women don't ask for help, because they feel like they have to do it on their own, or that other people might judge them for needing that help. But we're one of the things, and I was just talking to one of our other coworkers about this, is this idea of that, when I was younger, I thought that the older I get, the more I would, feel confident and secure. But it's like the older I get, the more I realize like everyone is just figuring it out as they go. And that is just part of being an adult. And I feel like the more we can be vulnerable in that way and just reach out to have that conversation to someone that you admire, I feel like that's the best way to go about building your network.
Vanessa, do you have any thoughts on building up that female support system?
Yeah. For me, what I realized is like I have to be in the places that the people I want to, well, actually it's twofold. So like I need to be in the places where these females would be. And then also pushing myself a little out of my comfort zone as well. So like I had a very opposite path to like seeking out women as mentors, because I started out so heavy in the tech space with like coding and stuff. And it was just all males, so I was freelancing. So I was always around males. I had male mentors, but I noticed that I kept hitting like a roadblock the older that I got, and older like 25, but that's like nothing. And when I started seeking out more females, I realized that I had changed my way and how I thought about leadership. And I didn't know where the women were. And what I started to do is get more focused on like, where are the women at that I would want to be associated with? And then the ones that would also like push me to a different level as well. So it's like being intentional, like going to Eventbrite, going to a meetup.com and finding out where those events are at and being like super intentional in that way.
Great. How about you, Shauna?
For me, I think that definitely had a lot of more men mentors in my career, but there seemed to be a real dynamic of dependency. And so I had an opportunity back in 2007 to work for an ad agency that had more women in leadership. And one of the things that I walked away from that experience was feeling like I had permission to do the work on my own. And so I'm drawn to female leaders that are like that. And a lot of times I do try to listen to podcasts about women in leadership. I listen to maybe speakers from a self-help type of aspect of how to have critical conversations, especially right now with kind of being stuck at home during the pandemic. I've tried to lean on some of those virtual aspects, but truly I felt empowered in that sense of having worked with powerful women who just showed you that they could do things. They weren't dependent on someone else telling them that they could do something. They had permission to do it. And I've taken that with me professionally as well.
That's great. And you mentioned powerful women, and that is a perfect segue into this next question I'm seeing. On the show, Hannah talked about superpowers and understanding what your superpower is, and then how to apply that to increase and improve your leadership. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on how do you feel like identifying your superpower? How important do you think that is? And then you got to tell me, you know, what you think your superpowers are. So I'm going to start with Shauna on this one.
Yeah. With regard to superpower, I have 27 years professionally working, and where I have found my strength is looking at everything like a puzzle and putting the puzzle together. And I like to look, I almost look at it like a 3D puzzle. I need to look at it from all views, consider any aspect that might influence it, and be able to put it together. So I like working with a lot of different personalities and stuff like that, and can stay pretty calm in situations where maybe conflict comes into play. And so this would be emotional labor, if you will, but I feel like I can stay calm underneath that. And it's just taken me time to realize that this is where my strength is.
That's great. How about you, Crystal? What are your thoughts on finding your superpower, and then what is your superpower?
So, so there's a couple things I'm going to say here. One, as someone who, like, I have very high standards for myself, it's hard sometimes to look at yourself objectively to be like, oh yeah, that's what I'm really good at, because sometimes you're always like, well, I could always be a little bit better, or somebody's better at that than me. So one of my suggestions is to ask other people what your superpowers are, specifically people you've worked with for a long time. Because I have to say that one of my superpowers is seeing superpowers in others, because one of the things I always strive for as a leader and a team member is, when I am building a team, is looking for people who are better at things than I am. Like, I want people who are stronger at specific things that I know I'm not good at. So all of you are on my team, and I can identify what I always perceived as what your superpowers are. So Vanessa, one of your superpowers that I've witnessed is that you are not afraid to ask the hard questions. You've definitely put me in situations and asked me. I'm like, okay, yep, that is a question that somebody should have asked. I'm glad you asked it. You don't shy away from the hard conversations. Shauna, you are just an amazing supporter of people emotionally, and seeing them and recognizing where they're at and meeting them there. So that is great, because so I'm not always one to ask the hard questions. Sometimes I'm like a little too like, do I want to, create that conflict? And then Shauna, with you, sometimes I'm like, do I go there? Do they trust me enough? Am I on that level to be asking those questions? So both of you having those superpowers definitely helps, create a more robust team for all of us. And then Cheryl, your superpower is just thinking of all the different aspects of a project, where sometimes I'm like, yeah, we can do that. And Cheryl's like, hold on, let's just think through some of these things first, because I can get down a path and realize like, okay, wait, maybe we should have thought about that a little bit longer. So these are all of the superpowers you guys bring to the team. But I would say,
what about you?
My superpower is being able to see the superpowers in others.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
so you have superpower vision.
Superpower vision.
Love it.
Oh, that's great. All right, I see another question here. Let me find it. All right. So someone is asking, what are some of the top qualities that you identify or recognize in other women that you feel like makes them a good leader? So Vanessa, let's start with you.
Yeah. One of the things that and this is kind of piggybacking off of Crystal's energy here. I actually see Shauna, something that I see in Shauna and Crystal as far as like leadership goes are two things that I really love when it comes to leadership. So one, with Crystal, I love that she leads, but not in a way that's like, I'm an authority and this is my title and I have to come in with all this heavy energy to lead. So I love seeing those leaders that can put like their best foot forward, but they're also like calm in the way that they orchestrate, and they're very attentive. And I really love that in Crystal's leadership. And the second part of like what I love seeing in leadership, and Shauna does this so well, is recognizing the person. I think that is so important because it goes beyond someone fulfilling a need, execution, etc. And I love that she takes a time to see someone and say, hey, like, yeah, you're supposed to complete this task, but I see you're a little frustrated. Like, I see that, I see you. And I think that recognition is really important. Those are two things that I really value in leadership. And being so like detail oriented, like that's so powerful. That's a skill. That is a skill. Like, I love that. So I think those three things are like what I envision as a leader.
That's great. How about you, Crystal? What are some qualities that you admire or look up to in leaders?
So first, thanks, Vanessa. That was very kind.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, sort of, empathy, obviously, being able to meet your, the people that you're leading, understanding, like sort of similar to what Vanessa's saying, like seeing them as people, I think another thing in terms of leadership is, being humble. Like one of the things that I've always, admired in leadership or people I consider good leaders is that they don't feel like they need to have all the answers. Leading is not about knowing everything. It's not about being a know-it-all. It's not about being the smartest person in the room, but it's being someone that people want to follow. So, and that requires vulnerability. It requires humility. And I think the last thing is, like leaders knowing their own strengths and weaknesses. And that might go to, in line with some of the humbleness or the humility. But, and also being able to know like when to leverage those strengths and where to support those weaknesses. We were talking a little bit before this, and one of the things I consider Tessa, who is one of the leaders in our organization, a really strong woman leader. And I love that she is able to leverage some of the strengths that she has in terms of being, super passionate about what she does, first of all, but being able to connect these dots. She's created the Leader Generation podcast with you, Cheryl, and she's not only used her ability as a leader to create this space, but also to empower other people to come along with it. Like now we're all here on this conversation having office hours based on something that she built. So not only is she empowering our team, our companies, but then also leading our clients.
I love that because I know I've, been in situations where some of the leadership kind of strong arm people into, I am the leader, you must follow me. And, people, they're more apt to follow leaders that, they respect, not just because of their title, it's their behaviors and how they treat others and the empowerment that they provide their team. So that's really great. How about you, Shauna? What are your thoughts?
To me, active listening, feeling like you're being heard, that any concern you bring to somebody, that it's just being heard. And I think with active listening, that means hearing beyond maybe just the surface of what's being said, the deeper thing in it. And that's only obtained through active listening. I also think accountability is a big thing, but I think that comes, it pairs with having the ability to fail. And that makes you human, like we tend to be afraid to fail, but to see a leader fail and be accountable for it and I think that goes along with what Crystal's saying, is being humble about it, and that it humanizes you, and it doesn't make you feel like you're above the people below you, even though maybe title wise you are or whatnot. You're one of us down there. And I think, kind of summarizing a little bit what Vanessa and Crystal said, I look at it as two ways. There's two ways to approach leadership. A carpenter, and you're building something, and if you're investing in a person and you're building them to be a certain way, or you can approach it like a gardener, and you're nurturing your garden, and letting people be the best carrot that they are, or a head of lettuce, but just allowing them to be themselves and being the best item in that garden. And to me, I really gravitate to a leader that is more of a gardener and less of a carpenter.
Oh my gosh, I love those analogies. And
Shauna, the analogies. You're so good at the analogies.
you are, you're great. Yeah, and I love that nurturing aspect, and it comes back to something Crystal had mentioned about building a team where people fill in those different gaps of what their strengths are, and it's really about celebrating differences, and all those differences put together really create unique perspectives. And we don't all fit in the same box. I don't know why we keep trying to shove everybody in it.
You make a really awesome salad.
Yes, we do. Oh my gosh, that's fabulous. Well, on that fantastic note, we have other questions we didn't get to, but we're running out of time. So I just want to thank everybody for attending today's office hours. We're going to continue to cover different topics, everything from digital marketing strategy and lead generation to content marketing and web development. And we're going to continue to switch up our panel, so you get to hear different perspectives from different fruits and vegetables, and really get to know our team, because apparently we're all a great big salad. So thanks again, and we will see you next time.